Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a good evening. So in a previous video, I just briefly went over the state of business in terms of how it's focusing on subscription-based business models these days. It seems to be the name of the game for companies to, entice us with monthly, maybe even yearly charges for certain products and or services, whether it's in your house, out the house, even, other businesses charge other businesses in a subscription based way instead of you being able to purchase something outright like we used to. And it's something that's happened as a result of us transitioning more into the data era, the information age. And I wanted to use that topic to feed into a few of the other videos that I'm making. And this is going to be one of those videos where I'm going to briefly go over something that's been asked multiple times, but obviously I've never talked about this, which is why does Apple release a new iPhone every year? And this time where the Apple iPhone 16 and the 16 Pro are gearing up to be launched into the market, it's another moment. The last, I would say, anywhere from 3 to 5 years, if not longer, people have been making it more adamant that it's like Apple needs to slow down. Like I literally just got a later model, like what I thought was the newest model, and now we're suddenly at the 16. I personally just got the 13 Pro Max maybe a year or two ago. I want to say no more than 2 years ago. And it feels like it's still like brand new, like it's so new. But somehow we are already on the 16 Pro and 16 era, which for whatever reason makes me feel like we're already on the edge of hearing about a 17. And it's like, you guys need to slow down and just like let it breathe. I don't even know if Samsung, because for me, for smartphones, I primarily pay attention to Apple, Samsung, and maybe LG here and there. But if I was to go to Android, I would most likely get a Samsung Galaxy. But Apple definitely is the one that like everyone's noticing and is complaining like, you guys need to slow your freaking roll. I feel like this is one of those things that even though you're not like you're paying for the phone on a monthly basis, of course, for the service and everything. So it still follows the subscription model, even though it's always been like that. Same thing with like old fashioned cable and stuff. So it's a little bit different, but when it comes to the release of the hardware, the constant updates and the ultras and the pluses and all this stuff, the little like mini updates, I guess, the mini upgraded versions of the phone in terms of hardware, I feel like that in the version also it follows that subscription model. It's just not as it's just not as routine, I guess, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and get into the video before I start rambling, and we'll go on from there. So I want to go over a handful of the key reasons why, at least to me, Apple and maybe some other tech companies that kind of follow the same thing. Again, not just focusing on, like subscription services for like music and streaming and stuff, but mainly focusing on the release, like even PlayStation, which is something else we'll talk about, different gaming systems, like even those mini flagship releases, why I think those follow the subscription model and a few reasons as to why these companies keep doing it. So the first one obviously being technological advancements. And this one, as simple as a reason as it is, it may actually be pretty pertinent. If you're familiar with the concept of continuous integration, continuous deployment when it comes to development operations or DevOps, then you know that a key part of that, especially if you include security into that, so DevSecOps, is it's meant to integrate, like to build, to upgrade, to update code, software, and I'm probably sure there's a hardware version of this as well. And you deploy it, you put it out into the world in a fraction of the time compared to when you have development engineers and operations, the more business side of people, and then you want to throw security in the middle. It's supposed to be more fluid and more consistent of a process compared to when these different groups are separated. So they get mashed together into one big team and just one big methodology. For technological advancements, I think that type of mindset has taken over to the point where you can release a piece of hardware 1 year, like the PlayStation PS5. PS5 came out in 2020, I believe. It's 2024. We're about to hit 2025. So it's been around for a good amount of time. But because of obvious reasons, people getting their hands on the PS5 was actually very difficult. It probably still is because we're still not all the way bounced back from the supply chain issues that the global pandemic threw our way. Always had this kind of feeling of, well, you guys are trying to develop a PS5 Pro or you're trying to upgrade phones and stuff, and people aren't even getting their hands on this piece of technology. Because of that, we don't necessarily feel like it's necessary for you to put out something new already. Like the old stuff still feels pretty new to me. And chances are the technological upgrades are not really going to be all that noticeable, at least to your average person. Now, if you're like an audio file, a video file, you're just getting to the nitty gritty of this stuff, then you'll most likely notice. But for the regular average consumer, you're not going to. But I still think there's a level of pressure there for these companies to keep up, because as quick as these companies can put out different software as well as hardware updates and advanced versions of technology, it applies a pressure to their competition of, you mofos better keep up. Otherwise, yeah, you might be like, oh, okay, we don't have to worry about it. We just released something a year or two ago. We don't have to worry about it. But a lot of stuff these days can actually change in 2 to 3 years, especially with AI now being what seems to be commonplace in technology, including in people's households, let alone in your business. The next one, which kind of bounces off of that, is consumer expectations. So I kind of just touched on this because the concept of even smart homes prior to AI becoming a regular household thing has been somewhat normalized, I would say, within the last decade, maybe, if not longer. The concept has kind of always been around, because if you know about that old movie, I think it was a Disney Channel movie, I think it's Monster House, if I remember correctly. So the concept of a smart house has always been around, but in terms of it actually like showing its face in real life, that hasn't happened until relatively recently. Now you have AI that's only going to further fuel that. So you can have like your thermostat can be smart. You can have like different tablets around your house to play music or to give you updates on your Amazon orders, to track them for you. TVs, they have smart TVs. Apple's going to integrate Chat GPT into, I don't know if it's the latest model of the iPhone. I think it'll be a software update, because Apple inked a new deal with OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT, so that ChatGPT will just be a regular part of the iPhone software. So I don't know if you have to get the newest phones for that, or if that's just a software update. I have to double check that. You have all these different updates that are coming that makes it seem like you don't need the latest and greatest pieces of tech to keep up with it. But as someone who avoided AI for quite some time, ChatGPT mainly, but I've been leaning on it a bit more and more, it gets to a point where it quickly and very easily gets to a point where people can depend on this stuff. And I even mentioned in a different video that I made, I haven't put it up yet, but in a different video that I made, is kids are definitely taking to it, because kids are already getting caught up for not even plagiarism, but for using AI to do like their homework and write their essays and stuff for them, to the point where school districts have had to integrate technologies on their side to specifically catch that. And I don't know how, I may look into it, but they have technology that can catch that, where they don't necessarily have to worry about kids copying and pasting from articles anymore and not even paraphrasing what they're saying. They're just using OpenAI or ChatGPT or whatever other AI software, and they just copy and paste from there. And the thing is, two people can have ChatGPT make or create or write an essay about the exact same thing, but it can actually spew out different, at least in verbiage, it can spew out different things. Like they can look different, even though it may talk about it the same way. So I don't know if it's a word choice thing or something like that. Either way, they can find it out. And people are going to lean on this stuff only more over time. So consumer expectations play off of the technological advancements in that way, whether it's for good reason, whether it's for education, whether it's just to supplement their business processes, but they don't completely take their hands off. Whatever it is, consumer expectations are definitely a part of it, and it's only getting quicker and harder to keep up. The next one being, which is pretty much the whole thing, is just business strategy. And this is where I say, in this case, iPhones in particular may be following the subscription model, right? Where, because the iPhone in particular is Apple's flagship line, it's the one line of products that everyone pays attention to pretty much at an annual level. iPads, not everyone pays as much attention to them, and it's a bit more niched. If you're a content creator, iPads are known to be much more helpful when it comes to editing videos, probably for a certain level of precision. In terms of Mac minis, most people probably don't use Mac Minis like that, especially when it comes to gaming, which is very big nowadays. There are people who are rich as heck purely off of the fact they play video games all day. And at that point, most people would say just build your own PC. Even if you're going to buy a PC from another company, you're better off not only for the functionality, but for the aesthetic. You're better off building and or buying your own PC, which I plan on doing myself. I plan on building my own one day. Yeah, I think this is just another version of that subscription thing for iPhones in particular compared to like their iPads, their Mac Minis and stuff like that. Because I have the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but the iPhone 16 is already coming out, which I already feel like we're teetering towards a 17 already. I feel like we might as well already be in the 17 age if we're already in the Pro, because they're not even waiting. At one point, they used to wait to add like the SE and the Pro and whatever, but now they just release all those models all at once, which makes me feel like we're already teetering to the 17. And it sets this picture in my mind where it's like, if you're like me, you have the 13, 14, 15, you have the 16, and we're probably teetering to the 17 next year already. And it creates this thing where if you're anywhere from 1 to 3 generations behind, you kind of serve as that customer base that will, once you move up 2, 3 models, assuming you actually need a new phone, which you probably don't. My 13 Pro Max is still great. But let's say if I just wanted to upgrade for the heck of it, that group of people in like droves will upgrade to a model that's 2, 3 years newer. And then people who get the 16 now will wait until the freaking 20 comes out, and that's when they'll upgrade, but they'll all do it in droves. And I think in a version that kind of serves as a subscription esque type of function where yeah, it's not as consistent like you're paying for the phone on a monthly basis, like you pay for Netflix monthly and Disney Plus and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's still a level of predictability because the main detail about subscription is that it's predictable versus, you just buy something outright. Even if you could only pay or you can only pay for something for like 100, 200 something bucks one time instead of paying for something 10, 20, $50 a month until it's completely paid off. Even if it's temporary, it's still a level of predictability there. You know that money's coming in. The business knows that money's coming in unless you just choose to cancel the service. But assuming you choose to keep it, or even if you forget about the service, which happens a lot, it becomes predictable for them. They can expect on average for their revenue stream to increase or at the very least plateau at a level that's still comfortable for them. And I think in a version for hardware technology such as the iPhone, that's also the same type of model that they're facing because they know that that's the one product that people pay attention to when it comes to Apple more than any other product that they produce. Another thing of it, and Apple's been called out about this multiple times, but they basically lower the performance of their older devices. So when a new device is coming out or about to come out, older devices they will intentionally lower the performance of those devices. Now, something that they came out in the public a few years back to address this because people were getting very upset with it and they found that it may have been illegal. At least the public reason that Apple came out with was because of the software and hardware upgrades, but more so the software updates and how demanding those updates are on older generations of iPhones. They do intentionally lower the performance of iPhones that are 2, 3, 4 generations older than the latest version because those resources, when they are completely used up, will essentially cause the phone to crash. Because you have to keep in mind, like phones are basically mini supercomputers in our pocket now, which means they follow the same rule of if you use up too much of the processing power, the memory, storage, all those things, it runs into those same issues where if you essentially overload the phone by using up all those resources, the phone will essentially crash and have to like restart or you'll have to take it in to get fixed. So when you have software updates that, they have all these new functionalities and things like that, but that also means they are increasingly more demanding on the hardware. If you don't have the latest version of the hardware, then it stands to reason that eventually that old phone is not going to be able to run as smoothly as it could. That's the public reason they gave. To me, the logic makes sense. It's also a great just business idea to entice people to be like, okay, well, my iPhone that I've had for the last 3 to 5 years is officially just becoming a paperweight, and the basic apps that I've been using for personal reasons to record my content, whatever it is, it's just becoming irritating to use. So I might as well just go ahead and give my money to Apple to get a new phone. I can see that also come into effect, but they may not admit it under that light as a business strategy. So they basically take advantage of the concept of their own tech becoming obsolete in order for them to benefit off it in the long term, which feeds into the business strategy part of it as well. And then you have the last one, which I'm definitely a victim of this. If you're trapped in the ecosystem, I don't think I'm ever going to break free of the Apple ecosystem. I tried it when before I officially got like my first iPhone years ago when I was still in college. I had an Android. I wanted that functionality of text messages coming into my phone. I forget which one. It wasn't a Galaxy. It wasn't like a flagship Galaxy. It was one of the other kind of like offshoots of that line. Like it wasn't the main Samsung Galaxy. It was I forget the other version. Maybe if I find it, I'll put it on the screen. I wanted that functionality that people with iPads, MacBooks, and the iPhones had, where they would get the text messages and calls, but it would be through Bluetooth, would get directed to their laptops. And I wanted to do that because it just seemed more convenient, especially if you weren't near your phone. I tried to download third-party apps onto my Dell Inspiron at the time, if that's how you pronounce it. On the second one that I had, I tried to download third-party apps to do that, and it was very hit or miss. It sometimes worked, and even then, the like lag behind it, if it came to my phone and I would like time it and I would wait until it gets directed to my laptop, and it would sometimes not take at all. Other times it wouldn't take like for a few seconds, like a minute, maybe a couple minutes. It was just bad. So that was one of the things when I finally got a MacBook and an iPhone and I was able to get that functionality. I'm like, that was great. And then you get phone calls directed to it, FaceTime calls directed to it, because I'm not always near my phone. Actually, the older I get, the more I make it a point to be away from my phone, assuming I'm not at the gym or I'm not working on my own projects and stuff. And then, of course, you have it when I'm asleep. Even when it comes to my Fitbit, calls coming in on my Fitbit, when I see certain calls coming in, if I'm awake or if I'm not busy, then that also gives me an idea of like someone reaching out to me for certain things. I know whether or not it's urgent, whatever the case is. So having that ecosystem that bounces different messages and calls all the way around, it creates a more fluid experience. And then if you integrate it into your household, then it's just a whole new level. I don't think I'll ever get there, or at the very least, no time soon, because I'm not a smart home type of guy. But for those who take advantage of it, even with the Alexa ecosystem, that's another version. Just that effect, that overall effect of the ecosystem where everything fluidly just moves from one device, from your TV to a sound bar to your phone to your computer, to your watch. It's just very convenient, and I don't think I can give that up, because Android is just not there, not in its own right. Like you would have to supplement it again using like Alexa or maybe like Google pieces of tech and stuff to do the same thing. But Apple, it's all in house to the point where you can integrate it with your security system and other things in your crib, and it's all through Apple and the pieces of tech that they offer. So for me, I don't think I'll ever break out of the ecosystem. I think my main thing, like at least on a personal level, I'll always be part of the Apple ecosystem. It's just very convenient for me. And then if I ever had the opportunity to like diversify and have like a personal phone, a business phone, or whatever the case is, then that's where I would use like Android or something. Because I still like Android software and stuff. But if I had to pick one, which I can only have one phone right now, I'd rather go Apple and stick to that ecosystem. Those are some of the key points I wanted to bring up as to why Apple, the way I see it, they keep pushing new iPhones every year, and some of the reasons that I think that by doing that, they're following essentially that subscription model, just in a different way than we think. So you guys can give me your opinion in the comment section below. Do you think I'm reaching there? Does the concept make sense? Is it old news? I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it.